Down, down. Woo-hoo!
Hello, everybody.
Born to be alive. Woo-hoo! He was born to be alive. Woo-hoo! Okay, let's fade it out.
Hey, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome to Ignite Your Life with Rick Maharaj. Today and Shashi Maharaj.
Happy Sunday, everybody.
And today we're going to be talking about all things relationship. And we're doing it in this group because this is a group that we love to add value to. We like to talk about looking and feeling younger.
This is Ignite Your Life, and we're all about health, wealth, spirituality, and relationships. And today we're talking about relationships.
Absolutely. And if you don't know yet, we are doing this every week, every Sunday, noon
PST,
Pacific
3
time.
o'clock EST.
Yeah. So we'll be on. This will be regular event going on, and then we're going to take the audio from this and turn it into a podcast as well. So
yeah,
and so we're really excited today. We have lots to talk about, and but we're going to start from the beginning. Like, what does it take to have a connected relationship?
And maybe we can start with telling our story of when we kind of had a transition in our relationship and what was going on for us, and then what happened, because we turned things around in our relationship, because it was kind of going in two different directions and not really in a very coordinated and cohesive and team focus in our little relationship. So maybe we could start there.
Well, we'll start with, for those who don't know us. I'm Rick Maharaj, and this is Shashi Maharaj, and we've been married for 27 years now.
28.
28 years
1993 we got married, and now it's 2021 years. So it's been
guys, don't forget.
We were walking across the US-Canada border on our 28th wedding anniversary. That's picking right. Berries along the way.
That's right. And so I work in a particle physics lab, build detectors for after we smash atoms. I build the detectors that detect the subatomic particles. Worked on fantastic projects like CERN and the Large Hadron Collider, those sorts of things, which is wonderful for me. I love what I do. It's like my playground, but I also love sharing our connection with the world and what Shashi and I do in our relationship. That makes it so juicy, and it wasn't always juicy, and you'll hear more about that later.
Yeah, and I'm Shashi Maharaj, and so I've worked 28 years as a market researcher in a corporation. We have 3 grown children from the ages of almost 18 to 25, young adults that we're so incredibly proud of, and they're all pursuing their passions and lit up children and happy. And I just last year started my own business, and this was as a result of some of the transition that happened in our relationship and in our lives, going back to a couple of years ago. And I'm also a real estate investor and a property manager and a huge fitness and health advocate and a healthy eater. And health and wellness has been a passion of mine for the last 25 years plus. And yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Sure. So we'll dive right into what sort of got us here, and maybe we'll start. Today's topic is about making the decision. It's about deciding that you do want to have a connected relationship. Right. And so, sorry, I got distracted there. So that's the first thing any of us have to do if we want to have a connected relationship, or have, this connection with our partner, or magic in our relationship. And so I'll fill in a little bit of the backstory about how, what decision I made that really made this relationship, or changed the game in our world, in our relationship, and really took our relationship to the next level. There's always been, decisions along the way, but there's one major one that I really want to talk about today. And that one was, it was a couple of years ago, actually. We were sitting in it was more than 2 years now, but we were sitting in a Tony Robbins Unleash the Power event. And, if you've ever been to one of those events, you know that you start to get very clear on what you want to create in your life, your future, what you want to do moving forward. And so Shashi and I are taking our notes, and we're planning our futures. And I look over at her booklet, and it looks nothing like my booklet. And I'm thinking, oh man, this isn't good. Like, I'm going in one direction, she's going in another direction. And that at that time we were quite disconnected. Our kids were basically grown up, self-sufficient, and we were pursuing our own hobbies. And so we were looking at two different futures, and at that time we were, like, as I said, disconnected. And when I looked over at her sheet, and she looked at mine, and then we started discussing the differences, and we actually started to get angry and react to each other's future plans. And I just blurted out, well, maybe we're not meant to be together. And then there was the silence and the sort of realization that, well, is our at that time 25-year or 26-year relationship coming to an end. And it was a quiet night that evening, and I had a few more drinks than I would have normally. But then the next day, something magical happened, and Tony asked this question. He said, "What's the one thing in your life that you could change right now that would have the largest impact on your life? What one habit or one thing that you could change that would have the greatest impact on your life?" And as I was sitting there, I was thinking, well, actually, so the greatest impact in my life is if Shashi and I got along a lot better than we are now, because we were arguing quite a bit at that time, and just disagreeing, just annoying each other, all these things, not seeing each other. And so, that was my outcome. That would have the greatest impact if my relationship with Shashi was smooth or easy, or connected. In reality, I was looking for connection. So in that moment, sitting in that chair, I made the decision to make Shashi my number one priority. So I thought to myself, if I make her my number one priority, then that would most likely lead to more connection and have the greatest impact in my life, and for the good. And so in that seat that day, I vowed that would be the case. I would make her my number one priority. And since then, I've kept that commitment. And we're going to talk about commitment next week. But since then, she has been the number one priority in my life. And my life has completely shifted. And it's because, I made that decision that the universe conspired for me to be able to keep my promise. And things came into my field and into my life, and the universe brought things to me that supported that decision and supported that wish, or that longing, that wanting, just deciding, and made the difference, and being committed to that decision. So many things happened, and we'll talk about some of those things on other days. But that just that one solid decision changed the trajectory of our lives. I think that's all I want to say about that. You can fill in any more if you'd like about that decision, and what happened for you, what it meant for you, what were you going through.
Yeah, so I guess for
time?
me at that time, we were in day 3 of this 4-day Tony Robbins seminar, and at that point I was really kind of not very kind of not hopeful for the future, and very confused, because at the time the state of our relationship was that I was off doing a lot of active things. I was in a running clinic, I was doing hiking, I was setting a lot of fitness goals, and to me I would see Rick on the couch and kind of disconnected and shut down, and to me I never saw my whole part in that. I just kind of saw him as this person that was not interested in doing things like healthy type things, or every kind of consistently. And I would see this person that was like kind of sporadic with maybe going for a bike ride, but not kind of committed to like whatever he said he was going to do. And at the time I was frustrated because I didn't know how I could, I just saw myself as always getting healthier and more fitter as I got older. And then how would I have a partnership with someone who wasn't committed or interested at the time? And you were drinking at that time. And so it was very confusing.
And she would always say, I don't want to be wheeling you around in a wheelchair everywhere we go in 30 years from now.
Yeah. And yeah, so my communication pattern wasn't in the most positive either. Like I was very kind of, at the time, condescending and just critical. And I learned through the Tony Robbins that a lot of things that I thought were helpful and kind of like I was doing it out of love and out of care was being not being taken that way. It was being taken like criticism. It was being taken like I was criticizing, even though I was trying to be caring. So I was like, book appointments for Rick or get him involved into programs, thinking that, okay, well, I know that this is best for him because he needs to take care of his health. So I'll just put him in programs or put him in appointments like I would do for my kids, And it wasn't the way that he was on the flip side, not taking it that way. And it never really occurred to me. Like I would just see this checked out person that I couldn't connect with. And it didn't occur to me that it was my style of communication that was creating that. So I learned a lot about feminine energy and the difference between masculine and feminine energy, which we'll talk about again through this
through the series.
And I hadn't realized that I was bringing a lot of masculine energy to the relationship, and in a relationship you need polarity, feminine and masculine. And so when two people are bringing their masculine energy, there's not going to be that polarity. So I had and why that happens is because when women don't feel safe, because for myself it was I had a very traumatic and challenging childhood. So I learned to suppress my feminine energy from a very young age, from probably 4 or 5 years old. I learned to not show my fears, not show, when I was unsure. I just kind of put on a very strong and brave persona and a mask, because that's how I had to be from a young age. And I went through life like that. And so it was through subconsciously not really knowing that I was doing that. I was just kind of, so deeply entrenched and so covered up. My heart was so protected that I didn't really even start to unpack a lot of that until, into my 40s, where I started really getting clear and opening up my heart, because it was so buffered. And then, so when Rick made that decision to make me his number one priority and started being more present and being more engaged, I started to feel safer. And I started being able to share a little bit more and to start to make changes in some of my patterns and my way of communicating with him, like in circumstances where I typically would get really angry. Like one example is when he came home like after midnight on a weeknight, and typically I would get really mad at him and be like, oh, you're getting home now, and just be like condescending and just angry. But on that night when he came home and I asked him where he had been, and he told me, and I knew he had been drinking, then instead of getting mad at him, I actually looked at him and I said, oh, I said, I actually like, I said, I really missed you. And his whole face went from this look of like fear to like, oh, like it was like the surprise, like he was really like shocked, I guess, or surprised and pleasantly, because then he came over and sat beside me and we actually had a connected moment. And for years I had been getting mad at him in that kind of a situation. It was just this gut response, even though inside, like, it was because I wanted him to be there for me and wanted to connect with him, but I never let him know that. I just would get mad at him. So on the flip side, he was like, oh, he'd be kind of thinking like, oh, I'm going to get in trouble. She's going to get mad. I'll just avoid her because I'm going to get in trouble. Not really knowing like what was underneath it, because I wasn't sharing my vulnerability and sharing the truth of why I was upset or getting angry. So that was a real shift, I think, from that point. For me, it was very difficult for me to change my pattern and be vulnerable in that moment. But I had committed to doing something different, because if you do the same thing, you're always going to get the same result. But it's when you make a change and try something different that you can then get a different result. And we were just, I felt so happy with the outcome that we had a connected moment, and I felt seen in that moment too, and heard, and we really connected. And that was a few months after this had happened, and probably about 6 months after this workshop. So there was things kind of along the way where markers and changes, and it's a process. These things don't change overnight.
Yeah, and is exactly what Shashi talked about, leads perfectly into what I want to talk about next. Is about, lots of people ask us, yeah, but they're in a relationship, and my partner won't change. My partner won't change. Like, they're the problem. I need them to do something different.
I used to say that all the time. I used to say that all the time. Like, if only he would do this, things would be fine.
Yeah, and it doesn't take both people. That in that example Sashi gave,
I made a shift.
What I want to impress upon is, it only took one person
to make a shift,
to make that change.
And then when you change your way of behaving, because especially in long-term relationships, you get into these patterns where, like, I was not even really truly aware of how much was my energy, and then where was my energy affected by his energy, because you become so like intertwined, and you're always into this.
You're also programmed. We are programmed to respond in a certain way, because we've been doing it over and over and over.
Yeah. So you subconsciously
have these
don't think
automatic responses.
Yeah.
But it is when, so this is sort of the next step. Like, you make the decision, and now what are you going to do about this decision? You start to respond differently to, you're not responding from your programmed responses anymore. If you make that shift and you do respond differently, and it is a reaction, and I'm sure you've had the experience of being somewhere totally mad at someone, and ready to, bite their head off, and you're angry, and then they respond in a gentle, kind way, and just alleviate any of your fears or doubts. And all of a sudden it's like, oh wow, okay, like you feel better. You don't respond the way you were gonna or planning on responding, and you shift. But what caused that shift? It's the other person. They didn't do it in, they didn't plan it with you. It wasn't. It didn't take two. It took one person to respond in a different manner.
Yeah.
And it shifts the relationship. It shifts the other person, and then that relationship changes as well.
Yeah, so we're at almost just over 20 minutes, so maybe we can cut it there. And then I'd love to hear feedback and some comments in the chat. What's resonating with you? What kind of questions do you have about what we're talking about? What other types of things do you want to hear from us? Feedback is a gift, guys, so we'd love to get your engagement, your comments, your what are you struggling with in your relationships right now, and what do you have a situation that's going on, something you want to share with us? We will be back next week, and we will be talking about
next week is commitment. We're going to talk about commitment. So now we've made the decision, we start to make some shifts in our life and be respond differently, or change our behavior. But just making that decision, something else shifts. Like we put this intention into the field, and the world around us changes.
Yeah.
So that we can keep our commitment.
I think we can also do 1 week on vision and manifesting as well, because that's huge in how we were able to fulfill many of the things that we wanted in our lives is through visioning and manifesting. So we can do a week on that as well.
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, everyone.
We're Rick and Shashi. Ignite your life.
Yes,
and
building relationships, aging younger, building wealth, and growing spiritually.
Talk to you all next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now.